Who is the Magic player that has the most to prove in the upcoming season? Today we're going to talk about who might need this season to go well the most on this Orlando Magic roster, and where I think of those potential candidates they will be by season's end, whether or not the team is raising the Larry O'Brien or, unfortunately, potentially getting out early in the playoffs. Guys, thank you for watching the channel and supporting everything here over at Magic Digest. Make sure to subscribe and like this video. Both of those ways will help us know that you guys are enjoying the content here over at Magic Digest. We're trying to build an Orlando Magic basketball community here on YouTube. Okay, so this list that I have also co-signed was made by the great people at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Elaine Bloom, who is the site manager and expert and editor over there. She makes great content and everybody over there is really good. So we're going to talk about this list and who they have on it. They have some of these players on here for different reasons. Let's get into the very first name that is on this list. I think it's very obvious. Franz Wagner. His great big contract hasn't kicked in just yet, but obviously people have been watching. This is probably the most notable player outside of Paolo Banchero on the roster, and after his Olympic run with Germany, I think a lot more people are kind of paying attention to what he is going to do next year. Now, obviously, his 28% from three has been a huge talking point, especially since he got paid over $200 million in a max rookie extension. He's getting compared to a lot of people also in his draft class, and we're still waiting on Jalen Suggs to get paid. So I think a lot of eyes are on whether or not Franz Wagner can potentially become that type of player that supports Paolo Banchero. Can he be that second best player on a championship team? If he can be the third, that's good. That's still good. That's still, something that the team can build around, but they're certainly in a much tougher position because he's getting paid so much money. Three max guys like that's going to kind of strap your team. And we already know we're headed towards that area of cap-strapped team building, but you would like him to be that second best guy. Can he do that? That will be the big question. When we take a look at his stats from the last playoffs against the Cleveland Cavaliers, obviously faded down the stretch as the series went on. 40% from field goal and 26% from the three-point range. That was unfortunate. His free throws still remained pretty decent, and he was still averaging about 19 points per game, so that was right around his season average. But at the end of the day, you need those shooting numbers to be higher, and you would really, really like to see that improve next year, especially come postseason. I think with Franz, if his three-point shot is not there, you're still very happy with the way that he can slash, get to the basket. One of the best, truthfully, in the game, especially with his size, or at his size, that can do that. But his game would just open up so much more. Potential growth would be so much greater if he can get that three. So that's what we're really looking at, if he could reach his potential by getting that outside shot. But you just really don't want to see him fade in another postseason. One great thing that I think a lot of people don't talk about is when you strictly look at the box score from that series, he was averaging 4.4 assists per game, which was actually pretty decent, especially from what he averaged during the season. Obviously, it was about, I don't want to go completely, but it was just about a full assist extra per game, and considering how poorly he shot in that series, I feel like that's something that people don't really talk about as much. When we're looking for a facilitator, I feel like Franz was giving it up, getting it to other people whenever he didn't have it going. People were sagging off, and he couldn't really always get to the basket. I felt like he was kind of making plays. Now, it's not a full assist, but just feel like that was something to point out. Okay, so moving into the next player that was also on this list, they mentioned Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs is a guy, as I've said just a second ago, we're waiting on him to get paid, essentially. Second team all defense, that's where he makes his bread and butter, one of the highest three-point percentages on the team, and is going to really enter that undisputed point guard role as the season continues on and starts up. So can he be that facilitator? Is that something that he can grow into? Potentially, he's going to be $30+ million per year when he signs that new deal with the Orlando Magic. Weltman has already made it known that they want to re-sign him. Now, at what cost will that be? If it's over $30 million, this is a player that cannot be just the fourth best player on the championship team. You're probably looking at him to be at least a hybrid three, right? A guy who's tied for three, because you don't really see a ton of big threes anymore in this day and age, especially with the future of the CBA and everything of that sort kicking in. But you need this guy to be on a different level, like a Drew Holiday type of level, where he can be that third guy, where it's not really a big three like we've seen in previous years, but it's kind of something that, he's a player that you got to watch out for, essentially. A borderline all-star level. That's what we're looking at. And that's what they go on and talk about this year about Jalen Suggs. They do just mention he's got to step up and he's got to be that guy who can be that impact point guard. Because right now, losing Markelle Fultz, all those other guys, you'd like to see more from him. In the playoffs, obviously, Jalen Suggs had a couple really good games, but he shot under 30% from three, 40% from the field. And while his scoring did have an uptick, same situation with Franz's assists. I feel like it didn't really tell the complete story there a little bit. There was some games that were really good from Suggs, others that were pretty bad, just like Franz, where he didn't average a ton more assists, but I felt like he was able to pass up a little bit and was trying to be somewhat patient. You also saw some of that from him and the Olympics. So the next player that is also on this list is Wendell Carter Jr. WCJ could potentially be traded at some point. I have, like I've said multiple times, if you're watching all these videos, I feel like a broken record. I say that the two guys that I think most obviously could get dealt for other role players that fit us better could be Wendell Carter Jr. and Cole Anthony. So whether or not he goes to the Pelicans or it seems like every player in the NBA is up for a potential Lakers trade. But whether or not he goes to the Pelicans or the Lakers, this is a guy who needs to prove a lot in the upcoming season. I think specifically with him, it's health. He had a down year, lows for the most part across the board in the 23-24 season. I don't think that they want to make a rash decision, the Orlando Magic, but if he can't stay healthy again in his career, this is a guy that you especially want to deal because he's obviously in his mid-20s, and you probably have seen the best basketball that he could play. They've invested a lot into Jonathan Isaac, and we've seen just how much his stock has risen from being healthy. So I think if Wendell Carter Jr. can put together a good string of games next year where he's out there on the court playing consistent basketball, I think that could be a time where they do end up trading him. But he's just got a lot to prove, and whether or not he can do that really remains to be seen because over the last handful of years, he just hasn't really looked the same as he was in his early days with the Orlando Magic. Perhaps the team has outgrown him a little bit. Now, another player that is also mentioned in this list is Anthony Black. Young guy who is going to be thrusted into the guard rotation. Despite KCP coming in, Markelle Fultz is still leaving, and I think Anthony Black in his positive summer league appearance-ish is, like, he didn't really have a great game in that second matchup, but with a positive appearance before he ended up hurting his ankle, I think this is a guy that's going to be thrust into more of the guard rotation. Him and Jett Howard both played pretty well. They'll both be, in my opinion, in the rotation. We'll probably run an 11 to 12-man rotation to start the year. I know a lot of people have been mentioning that in the comments. Is we just got a lot of guys that we just need to see. The jury's still out on. Anthony Black is one of them. He is one of those rookies that you would like to see more from, and I think he'll get his opportunity, especially since I do actually think we could potentially see Cole Anthony leave in some sort of trade or anything like that. Now, Cole's a glue guy, and I won't keep saying that I think he'll get traded as on top of Wendell Carter Jr. I know that, but this is a guy, Anthony Black, who averaged 5 points per game last year and didn't really get enough play time, and especially whenever the playoffs rolled around, he was just nowhere really to be found. He played in 2 games in that series. I'd imagine if they go to the playoffs, which, probably should, right? It'd be a disaster of a season if there was no postseason for the Orlando Magic. Probably going to see more from Anthony Black. He'll probably play in each game, you'd like to think, especially with the defensive presence that he can provide. There were some nice points in that series with him out there on the floor. But let me know what you guys think. Who's got the most writing on this upcoming season for the Orlando Magic? And let me know where I'm wrong. Tell me exactly if you think anything that I've said here is just out of bounds or just completely unfounded. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below. I'm reading them all the time and having a good time doing it. But I will see you guys next time with some more Orlando Magic basketball content.